And welcome back to Insight. Ms. Bostwick, we did tell our listeners that we will be heading straight to you to talk about what is certification and the benefits of all types of certification.
All right. Good evening, everyone. It's always a pleasure being here. Yes, so we're speaking of certification. I know everyone is hearing about that terminology. Companies are becoming certified and why. Some persons are even saying, certification is not for my business. I'm doing well, I'm having profits, I'm getting by. But because of what is happening in Guyana and the development that is happening, the transformation that we're seeing in sectors, particularly the oil and gas sector, it requires our businesses to be able to demonstrate that they can indeed provide quality products and services. They must be able to demonstrate to investors, to, a lot of new companies are coming into Guyana that will require services. And these companies, a lot of them are coming from the developed or the more developed countries, and you will find that they're going to source services in Guyana, especially if we want to focus on developing local content and we want our Guyanese businesses to benefit.
Yeah.
Now, these companies would not know your business or know about your business, but the ISO management system standards demonstrates management systems that have been recognized internationally, and ISO would basically promote them as the formula for making things happen. They provide confidence. So for example, the ISO 9001 standard, which is the most commonly used standard, when a company is certified to that standard, it tells the users or potential users of that business's products or services that they've implemented a management system that is internationally recognized. So persons coming from all parts of the world, when you issue them that certificate and say, look, my company is certified, they can also relate to that management system that you are following, because there are certain guidelines that standard expects you to follow, because companies globally follow that same standard, so they
Correct.
can relate to it. So when a company implements the ISO management system standard, right, they would first become compliant because they're able to demonstrate themselves that, okay, we're meeting this requirement. We've implemented systems to consistently provide products and services that customers would expect from us. Right, it's particularly 9001. For example, they all have a system as to how to ensure their staff are competent. They have a system to show they're monitoring their processes to ensure that they're meeting requirements. They have a system to address any customer complaints, a system to address non-conforming products or a product that does not meet customer spec, how to address it even before it reaches the customer. They have a system to ensure that measuring instruments are calibrated and accurate for use. So there are a number of critical systems that a company implementing a management system would have that will help them to demonstrate that they can indeed meet customer requirements in terms of 9001.
So is that 9001 also 9001 2015, I believe, right?
Yes, that's the current version.
And I was reading a document that says that the reason why you should be compliant with the standards is to allow you to be able to be operational wherever you go. So when these different organizations across the world, they recognize the standard. So when you get into a different, if you that standard that you'll be using in Guyana, you could use that same standard if you go to Trinidad, if you go to the US, wherever you go, it just will allow you to augment your system quickly to suit the environment to which you're working in, but you have a standard that is recognized across the world.
Yes, so the companies would implement, they would do their internal audits, to show that they're monitoring themselves. Now, where certification comes into play. Now, certification in a simplified way is defined as an independent process, right? Where a body is able to evaluate whether a company is meeting requirements. So basically, it's an independent third party. We normally say third party because a certification body is body that is not affiliated with the business. They have no benefit with the business. That is why certification bodies don't provide consultancy services. So we have to demonstrate
That's
that
to
we're
eliminate,
independent,
right.
conflict of interest.
Correct.
Because as an accredited certification body, you're following the ISO 17021 standard. So as the accreditation body, for example, in the term of GCS, International Accreditation Services or accreditation body, they will audit us to ensure that we don't have any areas of conflict of interest. We have to comply with that. And also they audit us to verify that we have the competence to carry out ISO management system audit within our scope for certification. So basically when a company becomes certified, you're basically telling an investor, telling a trade partner that you have an independent body that is competent, that is actually coming into your organization at least once a year to verify that you're maintaining the system. And one of the things we look at a certification body is to see how the company is improving their system continually over the 12-month period. So there are opportunities for continual improvement. Now, if yourself declare, okay, I'm compliant, I worked on my system and I'm compliant and implementing and everything is going okay, that does not bring as much credibility that if you have a certificate to say somebody else is actually verifying that I'm doing what I'm doing. Because we had a question, somebody said, okay, why do I have to do the audit if the certification body's coming to audit me every year? And my response is that you have to audit to make sure that you're doing what you have to do. All we're coming to do is to verify your system. You've looked at the standard, you developed a system that is compliant, and we're just verifying what you have and helping you along the way in improving. And how we help, if we identify non-conformities and areas to improvement, it allows you to do corrective actions to improve on your system.
If I can,
Go ahead.
We have companies here that hire consultants who they say perform the
audits.
same kinds of functions as the auditors. How does that kind of work?
All right, consultants cannot provide certification. An individual cannot provide certification. It has to come from a body or an agency because there's a particular framework that a certification body has to have in place in order to be compliant with the 17021 standard if you're accredited. So you must have the personnel, you must have the facilities and the process for certification. So we're the resident office of Global Compliance Service in Guyana, right? So all of our operational systems for certification, because we would do the audits and we send our reports to GCS USA, which is one of the locations of GCS. They would have an independent certification committee that evaluates the reports sent up by the auditor, and they're the ones that make that final decision whether to grant certification or not. The auditor recommends certification based on the findings of the audit, and there are certain guidelines we have to follow when we're doing audits. For example, we must be familiar with the ISO 19011 standard, which is a management system standards for conducting audits. So there's a prescribed way of conducting an audit, and we have to ensure that our reports meet those requirements, and we have sufficient audit evidence in our report so that independent team, when they read the report, they must be convinced that there is adequate objective evidence.
I love that, but I have two questions. So the first one will be, how often does your certifying body audit your company? That's one. And two, if I have a company and I would have been certified through the right standards, going through your certifying body and whatnot, and I know that I have to get auditors to come in and audit my company every year, which means at that appointed time, my company is going to make sure that everything is in place. However, there are some companies who are ISO certified 9001 2015, and they lapse in terms of delivering that service, even though they're certified. And I believe that's because maybe I'm speculating here a lack of continuous monitoring. So let's talk a bit about that.
All right, so to your first question, you asked if our certification body audits us. Now,
Correct.
GCS is a certification body headquartered in Geneva, Switzerland.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they're accredited, right? And our accreditation body is International Accreditation Service. So within the realm of conformity assessment, we have inspection, testing, and certification.
Correct.
So as a certification body, we can only be audited by an accreditation body.
Okay.
So the accreditation body evaluates our competence to conduct audits.
Excellent.
So through the GCS USA office, we're an accredited location. So we go through annual accreditation audits through that office. So they could visit us or they can request documentation. So only an accreditation body,
Could
an accreditation body can audit us as a certification body.
I like that because we spoke about conflict of interest, and sometimes when there's an accreditation body and there's nobody to look over that particular organization or body of itself, you could be compromised. And this is generally, this is not directed towards your company alone, generally, because I do believe when we're being monitored, we operate differently, like you said, and this is validating what you said, that you cannot be a consultant and accredit. When you're being monitored, you operate differently as against if you're not. And that also is validating the fact that you need the accreditation in order to know that you're doing exactly what you're supposed to do when you're supposed to do it.
Yes, so there's a process to follow. So we're audited on those guidelines. And they can sample any of our records to see if we're following the process. So from the point of application straight to the point of the issuing of the certificate and how we service that certification period is monitored.
Excellent. I love the credibility in it.
Yes.
There's
You had a second question?
Yes.
In relation to
I would like to ask.
no, the second question that Chevron was asking is in relation to the lapses that happen
Yes.
in these organizations. And it's the same thing I want to follow up on.
Yes.
Where you have companies that are showing that we
That
are
they're certified.
ISO certified, but then you see some lapses that ought not to happen, and it's not as though they're happening once and far.
Yeah.
It is frequent.
Consistently.
Exactly.
Yes. So, like with everything, nothing is perfect, and that is why the management system standards, and if you look at all of them, you will find they have a section dealing with non-conformities and corrective actions. So basically, all of the organizations that are certified, and even those who are compliant, have a process in place for addressing non-conformities.
Correct.
And that's to allow them to improve. Now, if you find an organization that is not meeting requirements, you say they're certified, but things are not going well, they also have a process. They're supposed to have a process for you to document a complaint.
Correct.
Of which they should be able to show redress, because as a certification body, when we audit, one thing we ask for, okay, have you had any customer complaints? How have you addressed it? We look to see non-conformities, how they were addressed over the period using their own internal process. We may also identify non-conformities because a system may not have been implemented over the past 12 months. And I would normally, because one of the being an auditor and really understanding the audit process, and what we have to look beyond just auditing to find non-conformities is to also help. Remember, this is kind of new in Guyana.
It's to improve the system.
Help the organization to understand that this is not just a system you put in on paper and a certificate, but it's a system that you have to ensure helps your business to grow. And we find that there are challenges, that there are many organizations, may have a consultant working with them, and if the consultant does not understand the standard and how to apply it to that type of business to help the business, you find the system is going north and the organization going south.
And that's
the
precisely.
two do not mesh.
And-
So that is something
Mhm.
companies have to look at. And I would encourage members of top management and their quality teams, when they hire a consultant, work with the consultant. You might say, yeah, we're paying the consultant to do their job. But it's in your best interest, because at the end of the day, you must sure you're incorporating all aspects of that system within your business. Because one of the things the standard has on a management review, you have to, first of all, which management review, context of the organization when you're developing it, you have to be able to demonstrate that it is aligned with the strategic direction of the organization.
Correct.
And with your business objectives. So the two should never be separate.
Correct.
Your system should be entwined with what you're doing every day. And that is what a number of organizations have to, develop that habit.
Yeah, it's procedures, developing all the necessary procedures to do so everything will be documented. That's why they say document what you do and do what you document, so it could be aligned.
Yep.
Because we're seeing, you see lots of incidents that are happening in companies that are proudly saying that we are ISO compliant, and then every day you open a newspaper, it's
You
like,
see something.
okay, but the ISO compliant, and this shouldn't happen, and then tomorrow is something else. Facebook is something else.
Correct, but I want to ask a
Another
question
thing
there.
you could do with the ISO compliant, that is also another misconception that we have, that we try to clear up. Companies are not authorized to say, I'm ISO certified or ISO 9001 certified. They must always have a traceability to their certification
Correct.
body. It's good for you to know who has certified them.
Mhm.
Because I've seen persons misusing the logo,
Yes.
saying they're ISO compliant and certified, and they're not, because of it has with certification body you certified with, and they don't know,
Correct.
which is very strange. So we have to be very vigilant. You check the ISO website at www.iso.org, you will see companies are not supposed to be saying I'm ISO certified and I'm ISO 9001 certified, because ISO is a standard setting body.
Correct.
They do not provide certifications, and that is something we need to recognize. For the companies that are compliant, that you see discrepancies in the quality of service. Another thing we can bear in mind, with certification, there is a scope.
Correct.
So you have to know what is the scope of certification.
Yeah, because you could have a
And
company.
you can ask them, they should be displaying their certificate, right? So ask them, let me see a copy of your certificate, and read the scope, because sometimes the service you want is not within the scope.
So I wanna jump in right here, because I know, Ms. Boswick, that you could have a company and part of your operation is certified, not the entire company. So even if you're seeing ISO certification posted somewhere within a company, and that's tying into what you just said, the scope, sometimes it's just a part of the operation is certified, not the entire operation.
And that's something that is not explained, because you're going to see somebody's going to say the company is certified. So we are going to assume, the public is going to assume that it is the entire operation of the company that has been.
Additionally, I believe that some companies, depending on the magnitude of their operation, how large it is, they do a phase approach in terms of certification. So I believe those are things that we need to take into context, because not all companies certified holistically, and kind of, even though they might put that certification out there, it's not the entire company. So that's something that people need to know.
Yes, so it's always good to find out what's the scope.
Mm-hmm.
And we would encourage our clients to display their certificates. Like when I went to the exhibition, I would see some of them. I said, where's your certificate? And then we would see some of them would put up their logo, and they have it nicely displayed, because we actually have a logo, the GCS,
Yes.
the company, and you have a nice star, so you can't miss it. You know the company is certified with GCS. And one of
Nice.
the benefits of having a resident office in Guyana, any consumer, any company that has a challenge or is experiencing not the level of service that is expected from one of our certified clients, feel free to contact GCS. And that is one of the reasons you can actually write or make a complaint to the certification body for their clients that are not meeting requirements.
And
So
so
that is something that persons can use, and that is why it's good for you to know who is a certification body. And another thing that I would also encourage companies to do when they're getting on board, ensure the certification body they're using is accredited. And that's the only way you'll be able to know that that certification body is being monitored, and they're also going to make sure that you're being monitored, so everybody's going to be in check.
So on that note, if let's say, for example, for argument's sake, I report a particular company that I see has certification, I maybe go further to find out what was the scope and all of that, and I feel to myself that they're lacking, and I write to your company and report that. How would you deal with it?
Well, in dealing with that system, what we can do is notify the client, and they will have to do their own internal investigation and provide documentation as to how they would have addressed the complaint. So one of the things in receiving complaints, the company has a process where they'll evaluate it, whether it's a non-conformity or it's some other one-off situation that would have taken place. But they would have to take action to show internally how they have done it. And we basically would verify the audits to ensure that that process would have been addressed correctly to satisfy the client.
And how long does that process take? That's one. And two, what do you deem a non-conformity?
Okay, so the process for addressing complaints would vary based on the organization, because it depends on the magnitude of the complaint and to the extent the risk involved and things like that. In terms of what is a non-conformity, now a non-conformity in simple terms means not fulfilling a requirement. You've documented your process and your procedures, but you're not following it. Sometimes it's the absence of a documentation that causes a non-conformity, right? So that is why the organization is given an opportunity to implement corrective actions. Now, a corrective action is a process which would eliminate the reoccurrence of that non-conformity. So they have to do the root cause analysis. Some persons do a correction immediately, which is like an immediate attempt to address the problem, but that won't fix it. That's just an immediate action. So we would encourage them, and they know what the process for corrective action is, to implement changes within the system so it wouldn't reoccur. Right? And even you can go further when we look at preventive action, where they even look to see if there's any other part of the organization where such a non-conformity could result, so the entire organization benefits. And likewise, you were speaking earlier about companies having part of their processes certified. In doing that, it's also supposed to help the company to now grow, because if certain areas of the company are following systems, eventually it should be easier for that company to expand it to other areas, even though they may not be certified. So for example, let's say competence of staff. The standard requires you to determine the competence of your staff and then be able to demonstrate that they're competent. If they're not, what actions you're taking to ensure they maintain competence. So let's say these are the persons working on production line 1, which deals with this set of products. Why would you want to have another system where you're not ensuring that the staff on production line 2, that is out of certification, are doing? So even though they may not certify the entire scope, it's very efficient and beneficial to the organization to gradually extend the system across the organization. Because remember, when you look at certification, a lot of it has to do with a marketing tool, some business objective they want to meet. So they might say, okay, we want certification for this area. but still help the company grow by extending the system to the others. It don't necessarily have to be in the scope.
What I want to also add there is the fact that whenever I believe when a company takes a partial certification, the intent is really to extend it and get all the other department section units in division into certification, so as to catapult the profitability.
Yes, that is true.
Well, Ms. Bostwick, as is always, we are always happy to have you here. You usually share a lot of information that is very, pertinent
Correct.
to our listeners. And, I think today, was excellent because we now know what we as customers can actually do. Many times we see things and we feel that there is nothing we can do, but we, for listeners, our listeners out there, you see something and you can actually report it.
Right. And so I believe this is your chance to encourage the listeners to get on board and make contact with your company.
Yes, of course. We're always open, and that's another advantage of us being in Guyana. You're only a phone call away at 223-6666. And we would normally have we have a very active Facebook page that persons can follow us. You just type in Global Compliance Service Guyana Inc. And of course, we have a number of programs that are ongoing. We have the ISO 9001 requirements course, March 30th and 31st. Those persons who would like to be able to really understand the requirements of the standard from the perspective of certification body. You're free to contact us. Registration is open, and we certainly look forward to sharing with you because we know that with our experience in doing ISO certification audits and as the only resident office in Guyana with local auditors, we have a wide scope of experience in after auditing a wide cross section of industries to the standard. So you actually get to benefit from a wealth of information and knowledge and experience of auditors that will help you to become more compliant. Right, so I encourage you to call us at Global Compliance Service and we'll take you through the process. At our next session, I think we will speak more of our inspection company because we have NDT training, non-destructive testing, all of that is a big buzz now for the oil and gas sector. We want to ensure that persons operate safely, that our welding meets international standards. And so it's not just like long ago when you just go and weld here and there, we have to now weld to meet specs and have those welds verified.
And not weld at the marketplace. So that is something that we could
persons if persons are out there
in a safe environment
want to be part of that training, we have one coming up April. So
before you go, could you just give them like an idea of the cost, because when people hear training they want to plan for it, and we're talking to businesses out there, small, large, growing businesses.
Well, our requirements training, we've had a standard fee since we're here in 2020. We have not raised our prices.
Oh, great.
All the requirements courses are $43,000, and now it's plus VAT. That's the only difference. But you will get value for your money, and we do it virtually. Very interactive breakout sessions.
Yes.
So we encourage persons to get on board. If there are persons who would like to have training on site at their locations, they can also contact us and we can certainly look at the package to facilitate that.
Excellent. I love it.
No consultancy services. We explain the requirements. We show you how you can apply. Because in the group work sessions, I ask the participants to say, you decide on a company you'd want to represent you in this training.
Yeah.
And we give them the practical guidelines, all right, as to how they can apply it. Because my passion is to see a lot of our businesses, many more of our businesses, get on board and not just become certified for the certificate, but become certified because you want your business to grow, you want your business to be recognized, you want to get value for money, and you want to get profit, because being certified also demonstrates you're committed
Mm-hmm.
to implementing a management system that will help your business to be more efficient, reduce rework, reduce waste. If somebody's absent, work continues. You don't have
I love that. Yeah.
dissatisfied customers because this particular operator
Yeah.
didn't come to work, so everything is on a standstill. Work continues. The system works for you.
Yeah.
And you
Well,
have something you can monitor. You know when you have your audits, you know who is responsible for what. Everything is so clearly defined. And if companies really, really look into the system, they will see how much benefit it can actually bring to them.
Well, I'm a believer already, Miss Boswick.
Thank you.
You've convinced me. So
Yes, so
yeah,
please get
yeah.
on